Welcome to Season 4 of the Knack for Business podcast.
Question to the audience. How can you build a digital platform that actually scales, adapts, and still feels human in an AI-driven world? Chris will break down how startups and growing businesses can modernize their websites and apps with headless and composable tech, use AI to personalize and automate content, and design digital experiences that put people first. If you're ready to future-proof your brand and make technology work for you instead of against you, tune in and learn how to turn complex digital challenges into growth engines. Our guest today is Chris Bryce from Dot Fusion. Chris is the founder and CEO of Dot Fusion, a certified B Corp, and CMS, leading global CrewCMS, leading global teams in Canada and Cambodia to design human-centered high-performance platforms. With over 20 years of experience guiding organizations like Cirque du Soleil, Intuit Canada, Mitsubishi, and Brookfield Properties through digital transformation, he bridges strategy and execution to deliver measurable impact. His expertise spans AI-driven automation, digital modernization, and channel marketing platforms. As a speaker, Chris shares practical insights on leveraging AI and digital solutions to amplify human potential, scale growth, and drive innovation. Chris, it's an absolute pleasure having you here today. And do you have a favorite quote or saying?
Favorite quote or saying? Yeah, let's go Blue Jays.
That's good. That's the first time we've had a sports one come back like that.
And it's been a while since it's been relevant. So, yeah, that's a top of mind saying for the next couple of weeks, we hope.
So what brought you into Dot Fusion, creating it and working CrewCMS? What's the backstory?
Yeah, the backstory is, I'm a native of Toronto, Canada, and I found myself living down in Southern California in, I guess, the mid-90s. One thing led to another. I was doing some marketing for a nonprofit organization, and we had this idea to create a CD-ROM to promote the organization. No one knew how to make CD-ROMs back then, so I wound up working with some experimental interactive designer folks building stuff out on CD-ROMs, and we thought we should start a little business making this kind of creative tech stuff. CDs turned into the internet, and we actually formed Dot Fusion in 1998. So that's the parent company, and still to this day, we honor our vision, which is this juxtaposed idea of creating things that are visually beautiful, but have a complex technical layer underneath. And that usually comes as an output of a large scale website or mobile app or a digital product of some sort. And CrewCMS, that came as a result of COVID. So one of the main industries that we serve is commercial real estate, folks who own chains of shopping centers or the office towers you see in a city downtown. They used to pay us rather handsomely for building out a website for their properties. And after COVID, all of those marketing dollars evaporated. Commercial real estate got hit really hard. And as a solution for continuing to serve the industry, we built our own CMS or content platform, if you will, kind of like an alternative to Wix, Squarespace, or WordPress. And that gave these property owner manager companies kind of a low cost, still high quality solution to host the websites for their shopping centers and their buildings. So it was a natural fit for an industry that we understood, and it turned out to be a really valuable product. So it kind of gives us a lower cost alternative to normally be a larger, more complicated website. So those two companies work nicely together.
AI, if you don't hear it 3 times in every sentence on the internet right now, you're just not paying attention. So when is AI a useful tool that helps build attractive things, and when is it slop that we should stop?
Yeah, I can share our way of thinking about it. We also have an investment in an AI agency, and I only say that in that we're fairly ahead of the game in an understanding of what's going on. We're probably at that 80 to 85%. We're not writing our own LLM code, but we really understand what's happening. Most people think of AI as asking chat some stuff and you get some replies and it's a research agent, or it helps you write some things, or these days helps create images and basically makes marketers spend less time creating things, which, to your point, has resulted in a lot of slop because you can do it quicker. You don't need to think about it as much. There is a bit of a game of pumping out more content, thinking that that will be best for the brand and for sales or lead gen or whatever you're trying to do. So that's kind of one way of thinking about AI is content creation, ask it stuff and get some feedback. We have slightly more advanced stuff going on with like duty research. When you look at science, medicine, they're sending it out there and actually solving big problems, which is great. It's a different set of calls to the language models itself. Then kind of I guess another area of looking at AI is helping build digital products. So we have tooling where we can get a prototype of a mobile app or a website built in, be the better part of a day and a half. Would have taken us 2 or 3 months before. So you've got kind of like all this stuff going on at once. And I think something to think about is care and craftsmanship, which it doesn't do a great job at unless it's prompted properly. So I think right now, general folks are starting to mature a little bit as prompt engineers. They've been playing with the tools long enough to sort of know how to kind of control and calibrate it. I think that's really great for everyone to invest some time in, however you go about doing it, but learning how to prompt engineer. And all of the models from Grok to Anthropic to OpenAI, they all have documentation on how their tools like to be prompt. So that's not hidden information and it's freely available to everyone. And chat does a great job of telling you how to prompt itself. Yeah, so there's kind of a cluster of ideas around kind of we see what's going on at the moment. Yeah. Where are you guys at on all this?
I think that for myself, the GPT, I'm using that as a tool for editing and processing. It's not gospel, whatever pops out, because, you look at it. So what I'm finding out is when I'm using the GPT, when I'm assembling, let's say, for example, the script for this, I'll have it pick up information. It'll kind of pull some information forward. I'll look at it and like, yeah, that'll do. And knowing full well that it's not an absolute answer. Even from the digital side or imaging side, I'll capitalize on it, and sometimes I'm going, it's like having the canvas, right, or the art is kind of pushing it out, and I'm going, yeah, I don't like that one, and so I'll try different things, or someone provides me artwork, in which case then I can incorporate it into the final design. So yeah, it comes in handy. Even when I go to edit this content, I use a platform called the Script, and it provides a lot easier time editing. It's based on our last podcast. I'm going to need all the help I can get because everything went sideways on the recording, right? So, best laid plans of mice and men. I've also noticed that in your bio, your Cirque du Soleil and Intuit and Mitsubishi, those are fairly big organizations. Like the Cirque du Soleil, the first thing that flashes to my mind, someone on a high wire act and dressed up in a almost Comic-Con looking outfit. That's really cool. And it's fire. How was that working with them for you?
Along with your line of thinking, we actually had our meetings on a trapeze net. So that was really cool because we build a lot of our technology solutions on enterprise platforms. I won't mention the platforms, but we were doing an integration with Cirque du Soleil on a large enterprise platform that would help with some of their digital experience channels. So it was fun work. It was essentially creating content that would be deployed around the world, that would be promoting their brand and culture and their events. in many different languages in a highly personalized way. Now, this was before we had AI personalization tools, which I'm happy to talk a little bit about and how that impacts content. But back in the day, personalization was really kind of if this, then that. So let's say you're sending out an email and you want a certain section of that personalized for a region. Well, the kind of component in the email would go, hey, is this person from this area? And then there'd be a set of rules that says, show this content to people from that area. One of the great uses of AI right now is you can speak to it in more plain language. And as you're writing out the prompt for it to personalize content, it understand the kind of colloquial conversation you're having with it and help architect these technology deployments that do the same thing, but better and faster, if that makes any sense.
I'm reading some notes, and I understand that when you hear composable, composes in there, I think of music, but when you say composable architecture, I get lost. Can you tell me what that means?
Yeah, and I'm totally with you. And we had an interesting chat this morning with some colleagues just around nomenclature and how we speak when we're talking to folks within our industry and how we need to speak to folks who are outside of the industry. So composable, headless, this is industry jargon for a concept that describes how you create a website. And there's really two concepts for any website out there that's on some kind of content platform. The content platform is the tools that the authors use to update content on the website. Most sites, I think, if you took as a percentage of the global websites, more than 50% are on WordPress. Many of them are small, but WordPress also services all the way up through enterprise, depending on how complex you want to get. This isn't so much a WordPress chat. WordPress is a tightly coupled system. What you see on your browser and that component, that might be a hero image or something like that, directly connected to the WordPress database. So you know when you're inside WordPress, for example, and you're creating a page or a post, you write some stuff and you add an image. Well, that image is typically stored within WordPress, and that copy is stored in a MySQL database. So when the page loads on the web browser, the browser needs to make a connection to the database, grab the content and the copy and the image, and then publish it in your screen. So it's a coupled system. You need to know some PHP, some front end stuff, and you need to sort of know how WordPress works to make sure that the author interface is doing what it should do. Problems with that are that the tightly coupled nature really restricts how you use the content in multiple channels, for example. Let's say you needed some content to go on kiosks in a mall and other content to go into a mobile app. Maybe a bit should go on a watch. There's where you start really limiting the capabilities of a coupled systems, and you have to kind of do quite a lot of working around. All right. The more modern approach is a decoupled system where the presentation of the content is completely decoupled from where the content is. So you have some content sitting in your content management system, and you have a component that's made of front-end code. And using APIs, you inject the content into the component. There's no direct connection. It calls the content, it gets preloaded in a network. I won't get into the complexity, but the idea of decoupling the presentation of stuff from the content itself. That way you could build some components that are, like I just said, on a kiosk, in a billboard, on a website, on multiple websites. And the beauty is with decoupled systems is because they're presented on the web as a flat HTML file, which is getting a bit technical. It's making a call to a database all the time, so there's nothing to hack. It's extremely quick. It's really great for SEO because it's not going through this other layer of code that is system code. So when you load up a WordPress website, you see a lot of WordPress code in that page versus just pure content, which Google and now AI search really like. So all that to say, this idea of composable versus maybe old school is you compose your systems together and you have the option to swap them out, as opposed to having all of these systems in one experience, like WordPress, for example, which is great in some cases, but not for others. Sorry about that. It was a bit of a long-winded explanation of something. But yeah, it's a more modern stack for faster, more performant websites, I would say.
You're mentioning the use of AI and personalization. And how do you, because now you've also mentioned other platforms, like you have a kiosk, you can be on your phone, you can be your desktop or a tablet, and each of them will present differently, right? And how do you customize it so that you are delivering a message and it's shaped to fit the person's needs? I know I know the software can recognize, well, I'm showing up on a type of device, but how do you make that so that it's customized so that I'm talking to you, it's feeling a little more authentic, or you know me, versus here's a billboard, it goes on the side of a building,
Mm.
and now here's a small version that goes on the side of your phone that you really can't read because everything's too tight and compressed. How do you work that through?
Yeah, I think there's two tracks. I guess let's call it web personalization and then marketing personalization, other channels. I think the holy grail for web, and as an owner of a web agency, something that we really need to be aware of is I don't see the future being a website anymore. I see the future being very clean, structured data that AI loves to read and present within its whatever it winds up calling it, its browser, its device, or whatever it is. Of creating a website with a navigation that you have to click through and have multiple hierarchies of nav to find a thing. I mean, everyone should just have a voice agent or a chatbot on their site, and you just go, do you sell white sneakers, and they just come up. But we're already getting rid of wander around navigation. It'll still be relevant for a little while because people also like going on a wander, and there's nothing wrong with that. But what we're noticing is that, and when you look at Stripe's integration with GPT now, that's concerning when I can go into chat and say, I want the coolest white Adidas sneakers, and it's deciding where I should buy that from. It's great for me, but it's horrible for a retailer. We just launched a large project for a national pizza chain up here in Canada, mobile ordering app. And one of the values that we brought to this project is we integrated loyalty points. So when you go in, you spend so much and you can spend your points and get more pizzas or whatever. But the point being, what if ChatGPT had chat points? So anytime you buy something from anywhere, because now chat is an e-commerce and you have your chat points. And when I go to order a pizza, I don't really care if I go to pizza place A or B. I just know that I want either a place I went to before, or I want a certain amount of pizzas for a certain amount of money because I'm having a party. And it just goes, go here because you can use your chat points with these guys. And they can actually start to take over the whole funnel of anything to do with commerce. So I find this really interesting. I know I was a little off track with personalization, but it gets you thinking about, you either have personalization back in the engine that's powering your website or digital experience, or the personalization's already happened because chat knows you now, knows your memory, and it's just going to serve stuff up to you. So when we talk about the holy grail, I think, and this is where things are heading, you say, I want some cool white Adidas sneakers. Chat knows my history and it's got my stuff in memory. It makes a major deal with Adidas and says, look, you don't need a website anymore. You need well-tuned brand prompts. And what we're going to do is serve up a message for anyone who says it white, cool Adidas sneakers. We'll use your brand guideline, and we're going to display, with a control from your art directors, a picture for Chris, who likes sailing and dogs, a picture of a sailing person with a dog in the cool white sneakers with the buy now button. Okay, Adidas goes, great. I don't need to spend $200 million a year managing this big complex e-commerce website. You're driving really highly personalized customization experiences based on our prompts. And this is not going to happen overnight because it's still janky and unpredictable. But when you look at the curve of performance of AI, like, things are going to get dialed in really fast. So anyway, that's how we see the ultimate state of things. And that's not here yet. Where we see interesting personalization around AI is in particular around the marketing and what we would call an ABM, or kind of MedPick, like enterprise level B2B outreach stacks, where tools like Clay and Smart Leads and N8N are powering automations to send out highly researched, personalized notifications on LinkedIn and email to people at the right time, at the right place. And we think that that's really interesting. It's going to create a little bit more noise, but creating high quality content along with the slop is also an opportunity for folks. You know, if you approach it as a kind of Gartner, Forrester kind of output, go research for 4 hours, build out a series of agents to really be agents, which takes time and engineering. So we see that as a thing. And then all of the content platforms are kind of racing to have some kind of AI implementation in their tools so they have something new to sell and add value to customers. It's mostly around content creation, but for us as also a development shop, enterprise platforms are creating these things called MCP servers. And just for the audience, I'll explain what this is because it's important to know. But it's essentially a way for platform to speak with your chat agent, to speak with Claude or GPT or Grok or whatever you like to use. So an example of this is HubSpot has an MCP server. Let's just call that an agent doorway. GTP up to HubSpot's MCP server. And instead of going into HubSpot and going through all this like 7,000 different navigation items and all this kind of stuff, you just in plain language ask Claude or chat something about the content inside HubSpot. Who are all the leads I have within the last 45 days that have the first name starting with B? That would be a hard search inside HubSpot. It would take 7 or 8 little clicks. And now within the Claude interface, GTP or whatever, you get all that stuff. So you're interacting with other systems. That's when using AI, kind of these consumer AI tools, gets really interesting. We haven't even talked about code and all of that kind of stuff yet, but even the Perplexity Comet browser is kind of for us a breakthrough, and everyone should be using it because it's really a way of using a browser, an assistant within your browsing experience. And that's kind of step one, where you can go send it off to go do a whole bunch of stuff that you would do on a site in your stead. So anyway, chatting a lot of here.
First, I think I'll be a little controversial here.
Awesome.
I think it's a fact that Kingston has better water sailing than Toronto. We'll just stop right there.
And well, definitely more interesting. I did a lot of my training there with the guys down at KYC, and definitely more interesting and fun, and more lights at night, and seeing all the windmills everywhere is kind of a spectacle.
But I do have a question. I'm pretty sure you can blow out of the park. I've been at this a while, and I remember when Word came out. Word. And the neat thing is the electrician, his brochure, his business cards, maybe his website, all had different fonts. all had different colors. It looked like an angry fruit salad. And I think we're in danger of that again unless we have agencies, perhaps, Dot Fusion. But how does the electrician get unity in his message when he's got almost too many choices?
Yeah, for sure. If you're talking, let me rephrase that. Are you talking maybe website and marketing, or how should I be thinking about this?
I'm talking about a guy who's trying to build his business through marketing, through the tools that are out there, some which are becoming AI. And there's a lot of jargon out there, and I'm really interested in how we break through the noise.
Okay. So if I was recommending, let's say a plumber, for example. Okay. So I've got a plumbing business and maybe 3 vans. Friend of mine's doing dispatch. I'm kind of running around, kind of overseeing things. And we got 2 other guys that are trying to do the thing. And we need to get customers and we need to serve them. We need to follow up with them as well. So I'd be definitely setting up my Google business location stuff, making sure people are leaving great reviews. That's going to be fundamental. Then we need a website with some kind of scheduling and dispatch agent. Voice agents these days, I think, are the best accoutrement for these services. It answers the phone 24/7. It can book your appointments into your dispatch or service CRM kind of thing. It can answer questions. It can escalate calls if there's an emergency at 1 a.m. It can send you a text or call your phone. So the kind of voice agent thing as your main assistant person is a great idea, especially if they're fairly low cost. A pretty straightforward website that maybe, I'm not sure if you're familiar with Alex Hormozy, but he has a pretty general, like, here is a small business website format. You can just tell chat to give you a website that looks like this. And then, go into a tool like Wix or Squarespace. Something super simple, gives you a little bit of creative control, but not too much. So, you're not getting into the code level of things. You can get your word out there. And then there's probably a set of thinking that I don't fully know for plumber marketing, but it's fairly regionalized, like you're covering a certain area. And I would start with making a list of all your competitors and auditing everything they do. Because if you don't know what to do, that's just a good starting point, right? So like, what's everyone else doing? And then what can you do better? So you can understand the region. And it can, beyond that, I'm starting to make things up because I don't know the industry so well, but I do have something that may resonate with all industries. And it's something that's really blowing my mind when I see a new restaurant open in the neighborhood and they're serving the same food with a lackluster experience and a bunch of people who don't seem to care that much, is that if you're going into any kind of business, like, you've got to be exceptional at everything you do. And it doesn't matter what you do, because it's so easy to be kind of better than most people, because most people are kind of lazy. So anyway, that kind of ties into it. Show up on time, follow up, do something special and memorable. Hey, I'm kind of into this plumber thing, actually.
Well, while we're talking about the plumber, then you touched on something a little earlier about loyalty and recognizing it. There are loyalty programs out there. You'll see it when major coffee chains will have it, major restaurants will have it, the fast food joints will have it. Use the app, or a card. It used to be the original one. Do you find then that the AI then can track the loyalty on behalf of the business, but at the same time, if you're the end user, let's say it's your chat GPT or whatever platform you're using, does it say, listen, because I've come across something here, we're doing a house rental, right? And I'm going, I am looking for a bathtub of this size. It's not a standard size bathtub, right? And I want one that's in the Ottawa area. I want this, and here are the parameters. And I know, other than the bathtub holds water and it's supposed to drain, what else I got to ask for, and what else I got to look for, right? And all of a sudden, it pipes out a whole bunch of information for me. It tells me, is it the left hand and right hand? Is it skirted or is it unwalled? On goes the story. Is it stainless steel fiberglass? Is the loyalty program something that would guide the consumer in the process? Is it like the friendly advice, like you've gone into some stores and you say, listen, we don't carry the product you're looking for, but if you go visit this location, you'll find something. Is it for you, the best fit is this, like going to a tailor where, you're not showing up and getting a size 50 suit when you should actually be in a 40 suit, right? Does it provide that type of dynamic input and response and guide you to the right path? And is it yours or is it the store or the retailer's opportunity to make that connection and provide that ultimate loyalty service? Because if I got best advice from my buddy, I go back to that buddy again. Sorry,
Yeah,
long-winded question, but there's a lot of parts to it.
awesome. Yeah, I think the idea of loyalty is often missed in that in most cases, there isn't a great benefit for the customer to sign up for that program. It's easy to say Starbucks may be the best at this because they've really built an interface around heavy rewards for doing something. In most cases, it's just, unfortunately, it's an idea to get people to kind of accumulate points for something that doesn't have a lot of value. So word is out on loyalty programs. Some folks do it well. And then what seems to be going on right now, I think even with Air Canada and their Star Alliance program, it's like, I don't know whatever happened over the past year, but you get like only 50% as much value back from being a rewards or points member. So and I can understand that there's business factors happening all over the place. But maybe to your other point, that's maybe around using AI to provide better service. And I think maybe, to your point around finding things when you're shopping, or we just launched a voice agent for large shopping center, not just to replace headcount from customer service agents that were hanging out in the mall, mostly just sitting there playing on their phones, but it did a job. It knows more. Like it knows how to get to the washrooms on the lower level where there's a handicap thing and the sink isn't working. Like it can tie into the maintenance system. It goes into security. This kind of agentic concierge, I think, is a really step forward. It knows what marketing events are going on. There's a sidewalk sale coming in 2 weeks. It can ask you to join the email list to be on the mall's promotional kind of thing. So it's not just replacing kind of a human. We can reallocate those folks to something else, or unfortunately, there will be kind of jobs being taken over, but it does a better job in certain circumstances. I also think that there's going to be opportunity for it to bring you more into the brand. Was just at an AI event and the KPMG guys were showing off this super personalized shopping experience where they have a picture of you and they put you in different scenes with different products, and it's a whole immersive kind of thing going on. And the output is a video. So you go to, I forget the example, let's call it REI or MEC, and you go over to a booth and take a picture. Once your picture's in MEC's kind of personalization database, you go up to any item of clothing in there with your phone, scan the QR code on the label, and it shows you in the item. That's pretty cool, right? So
Does it size you up for the right fit? Going, the size you need is not in stock, but we'll order it.
getting better at that, yeah. But that's the intent. So now, if I'm at home and MEC already, I've registered my photo in the 3 different angles at once, I can just sit on the website now and see me in all of the items. This isn't currently live, by the way, but this is coming. So that's, yeah, I would say it's about service and this kind of agent concierge idea.
The web is it's both hyper local and worldwide. You have done some work in Cambodia. Bring that to me. That's just neat.
Yeah, definitely interesting. So Dot Fusion itself is also a B corporation. So we expose all of our books and ESG practices to third parties. So we kind of validate our activity, and that in alignment with our positioning that we're generally a good company that tries to leave the world a little bit better than when we found it. Part of our initiatives under that program are to allocate our profits to doing something useful. And we've decided that useful to us is developing software development skills in Cambodia. It's a long story behind that, but generally not the infrastructure there to really train up folks to the extent where they can go in the global market and get paid $150 an hour, like someone from San Francisco for working on an Adobe project, for example. So we had that idea that'd be cool. Let's kind of figure out how to train Khmer developers that are kind of already progressing but may have plateaued or hit a dead end. How do we teach them some enterprise development skills, get badged up on a platform, and then you can go into the global market and make 10 times your salary, which we think is really cool because that kind of salary is a way of unlocking some poverty traps, which are these kind of spirals that go up and down. So we're trying to turn these downward spirals into no spiral and then into an upward one from a poverty and economic perspective. And software development is one of those keys. All that to say, I spent 10 years in Cambodia. We do have a small software development company there, amongst a few other things that are going on. COVID kind of shook those plans up or threw them off track a little bit just due to lack of travel going on. But our idea there is to continue to invest in the region and the talent there, because it's certainly not a place where you think of to go for your offshore developers, but it's also a wonderful place and an interesting adventure.
So if I'm in Toronto, I'm going to have you pick the cuisine. How's that?
That sounds good. I'm a pretty good culinary guide, and every Friday at 1:00, we meet for lunch at the same hole-in-the-wall Chinese place, and we've been doing it for years. So that's the place to come and jam with some interesting folks.
Chris, this isn't on the platform, but I really am really intrigued. Let's assume, based on your bio, that you could work all the amount you wanted to work with 10 to 12 companies. By basing your pricing or whatever, you could make all the money you want with those 10 to 12 companies. There's a comma. But you want to change the world a bit. So then how do you get to that plumber we talked about? Do you franchise? Do you sell software? Do you put in chat bots? Do you hire junior staff? How do you not work yourself to death by yet democratize the product?
Yeah, it's a great question because Dot Fusion itself is a services company. So inevitably that means chasing products or projects and products. So we build something and it takes a while, costs a lot to do, to get all the resources in there and build it. And sometimes there's some maintenance and extension beyond the first shipment, and many times not. So there's a cycle of constantly adding projects to that workflow. We learned a lot of lessons over the last 3 years, maybe, where, just adding more projects and adding more folks to do the projects isn't necessarily the way to grow a business, because your profits kind of stay the same. There's a whole lot more to do from an operational and administrative perspective. It's one of the reasons why we built CrewCMS. It's a SaaS product. You pay monthly for it. And, there's a small team that services it and improves it. In the long run, Fusion has allocated time to build more products because we're building products for other people. So we're starting to have one product per year in our kind of innovation department. They won't all work, but we've got some cool ideas. That is a crux with the services model. And yeah, I don't really know the answer for that other than make sure your services model is using AI to come up with ideas to create new things that service your industry on more of a SaaS or licensed model, reoccurring revenue model. Yeah, happy to talk about that as a whole separate conversation because the tooling now, like my dad could go into Replit and say, I'd like an app to help me. He is retired now, but he used to be in the executive moving industry. So he would broker all of the complexities of moving an executive from one country to another, move their family and their house and get them set up in school and that whole kind of package. He could go into Replit, type a few things, and get a pretty decent app that would manage his whole business in the better part of an afternoon. Now, no, it's not enterprise ready. It's janky, but it's 70% baked to the point where he could bring in a couple devs, work on it for 6 months, and have an application that he built with his own hands without knowing any tech. I say this because there's a bit of kind of bagging on AI's ability to deliver these kind of product ideas well. But when we look at what was available 2 years ago, which was, basically making a guy on a horse in an astronaut suit with a pickle through AI, to where we are now, like, holy Moses. So we're really embracing everything, wanting to learn as much as possible. It's weird, but most people should just ask chat to tell it what to do with it. It's a great kind of cycle where that's really where you get exposure to new things by, getting your chat tool to help you use it better. It's a bit of advice there, but yeah.
Chris, I have to tell you, I've been doing this now for 3 years, 400 episodes, and there's everything from press hard to 3 copies, whether you want it or not, to blowing smoke properties. And you've got to be one of the most exciting guests I've heard in a while for actually delivering stuff and concepts. My congratulations.
Oh, it's a lot. Yeah, like I love rebounding ideas, and I'm often put in the hot seat by our customers. I'm kind of used to it, and I just spent the last 25 years of my life in this space, and outside of knowing how to maneuver a boat around, fairly worse in this stuff, but no one knows everything.
Is that magic plumber or electrician priced in that SaaS model, or is it one step up? I'm really interested.
Priced in the SaaS model, and I think what you want there is like it's almost like a kit of what you need to start things up. And it also depends on how big you are, like air conditioning, heating and plumbing and dispatch organizations as well. So I do kind of understand that business just at a slightly larger scale, more regional than neighborhood, I guess, or municipal. But yeah, happy to chat or follow up with anyone who's interested in stuff that I can share with them.
Thank you.
Chris, if someone wants to reach out to you, find out more about Dot Fusion, A, how do they get a hold of you? And B, do you have a podcast, a book, anything else that's out there that they can kind of take in and the good word?
Yeah, sure. First of all, dotfusion.com is the parent of all this stuff. We always have an experimental chat agent going on over there. Try to hack it, break it. That's great. You can always reach out to me just at my email, cbryce@dotfusion. Yeah, I have a content management podcast called Beyond the CMS, and an AI office hours podcast that is all full of all kinds of general silliness around AI. But it is neat because we're fairly current in what's going on and try to break it down into like just normal human kind of conversations. I have at least a interesting sailing blog at gnarlyspoke.com full of misguided sailing adventures.
I love it. I love it. I want to say thank you to Chris Bryce, my co-host Wayne Pratt, and you, the Knack for Business listeners. Cirque du Soleil was sounded, and Cambodia sound like those are the kind of like the spice to life in this whole conversation. But you know what? If you want to understand AI, you want to understand AI from a commercial space perspective. You're a retailer, you're a manager of a space, you own a mall, you function a mall. Chris is the gent to reach out to because there are several layers of complexity and he's on the cutting edge of it. So reach out to them.
To reach the podcast hosts, email them at info@creativeinsight.com or by the website creativeinsight.com, spelled KREATIVISIGHT.com. To reach Wayne at his email, wayne@motive8u.ca, that is MOTIVE, the numeral 8 and the letter U.ca, or his website, motive8u.ca. If you would like to be a guest on this podcast and share your knowledge, let us know. We would also appreciate your feedback on the content or format. Check the show notes for more details. For these podcasts, we like to acknowledge the support and thanks to the following people. Carl Richards from Podcast Solutions Made Simple, a renowned podcast expert. Fred Crouch, who is the Property Wizard podcaster, where Bernie is a co-host. Jovan Strika from At Hive, a co-working space that is more than just a space. Then Melanie Weber, Bernie's invaluable business partner, and Wayne Pratt from Motive8U Inc., who serves as both a coach and co-host of these podcasts. Disclaimer. Please note that the Knack for Business podcast episodes are meant solely for educational and general informational purposes. The information and opinions contained within are not intended to be professional advice on any subject matter. The thoughts, views, and opinions expressed by the participants are their own personal beliefs and do not represent the views of the podcast hosts or any affiliated organizations. It is important to note that this podcast is not a replacement for consulting with certified experts in your area who possess knowledge of your unique situation. The hosts of the podcast, along with any participants or affiliated groups, do not take responsibility for any actions taken or not taken based on the information presented in this episode. It is highly recommended that individuals seek guidance from their own personal advisors in fields such as accounting, law, or other pertinent areas prior to undertaking any actions or making decisions that may impact their financial, legal, or other aspects of life.